give this to the elders or commission, missions committee. Good evening, brethren. My name is Sylvester. I am going to be 63 years the last day of October this year. So I'm 62, going to 63. I have been a Christian since I was 17 years old. Baptized 1979, having received the gospel from America here via the World Bible School. I can begin to tell you immediately that the printed pages have been a very useful tool for the mission work in Nigeria and by extension the whole of Africa. By the way, Nigeria is the most populous nation in the 54 countries on the continent of Africa. Nigeria right now has about 240 million people. Compared to the size of the land, that is serious overpopulation. So we have congestion already in Nigeria. Nigeria, the Church of Christ in Nigeria today, we have about 6,000 local congregations spread across the country of Nigeria. Some are in the south, which we call the Christian South, and less are in the north, that is dominated by Islam. We, as a country, have been most receptive to the gospel of Christ. I started learning the Bible from World Bible School when I was about age 15. And in the kind of family I grew up from, to get the pennies to buy the postage to send my lesson back to the teacher in America was difficult. And that was not what I could ask my parents, because my parents were looking for food to feed us. So at that time, I imagined that my father or my mother would consider it foolishness to ask for money to buy postage to send lessons back to America. So what we did, because we were serious, there were two other boys of my age in my village. We were involved in the lessons together. We would go to the bush and get firewood and carry them on our head to the next community and sell, and then get the pennies to buy postage to send the lessons back to America. In time, we could see that the World Bible School was showing us something different from what we have learned from denominations that we have been in. We were brought up in the Anglican Church. And then there were other Nigerian indigenous churches, but nothing compared to what we were learning. So that was a serious challenge to us. So we reached a point where we needed to be baptized. And we signed on, and the lady who is now late, Mrs. Naomi Hunt, she gave our names to the preacher of the Church of Christ on Airline Drive in Bossier City in Louisiana. This was in 1979. We practically took the letter and we followed the address sent from America to find someone to baptize us. And we were baptized. And before we were baptized, we had no information about the Church of Christ at all. We knew no one. Nobody came to preach in our village. But we studied the Bible through the mail, and that helped us to come to the conclusion that we need to move away from our denomination and become Christians according to New Testament teaching. This move was accompanied with plenty of persecutions. As a matter of fact, I've been a Christian 45 years, going to 46 now. I've been active in leadership the work, in mission work of the Church of Christ ever. And I think that myself and persecutions have been pairs. We've been together. I've faced challenges, troubles every time. However, I am grateful to God that I'm here today. I did not ever think that I would be where I am now. I did not know that I could become a preacher in the Church of Christ. Neither did I know that I could ever become a writer, now a printer, a publisher of materials that are affecting the Church of Christ in the entire country of Nigeria. More than that, the materials we are producing now are going to neighboring countries, Cameroon, Ghana, Gambia, Zambia, even down to South Africa in Zimbabwe. So the ways that God has used me has humbled me, but my faith has continued to increase. Now I believe when someone said, God does not call the qualified, but he qualifies the called. I have felt inadequate in many circumstances. One person who have had a tremendous influence in mentoring my life is Douglas Wheeler, who is sitting here. I was baptized 79 and I met him 84, just a few years later. And since I met him, things have been different for me because some things that I did not know about myself, he continued to encourage me, Sylvester, you can do it. For example, I became a public speaker in Nigeria. I was teaching and preaching and around the country. So my work in Nigeria and in the brotherhood of Nigeria has been something that every time I look back, I say, God, I thank you. And out of gratitude to God, I've made up my mind that come rain, come shine, I will continue to press on with this work until I breathe my last. I have faced danger, I've faced risks in the course of my work. Some of you may know Nigeria is passing through difficulties now. The force of Islam and other forces is trying to bring Nigeria down. There is Boko Haram, there is Fulani herdsmen, there is jihadists, and there are mercenaries from all over African countries. The Islamic group are trying to force everyone to become a Muslim in Nigeria. And because of that, there is persecution, there's pain, there is suffering, there's hardship, there is killing. Nigerians are being slaughtered everywhere because of this. And unfortunately, these very adverse circumstances have turned out to become an advantage for the preaching of the gospel of Christ. I have been involved in the gospel of Christ since I was baptized. As a matter of fact, from the day I was baptized, I just became a preacher. We just preach and teach, based on the material that we received from the World Bible School teachers all over America. At an early stage of my Christianity, I'm someone who was plugged into several sources of receiving books and literature from America to help the work in Nigeria. And I'm somebody who started to lead my colleagues with the goal, with the vision to preach and plant the Church of Christ in every village in my county. And so we were aggressive without any help. Until we met Douglas, there was no one from outside who knew what we were doing. And we faced ridicule, we faced ostracism, because people thought that we're stupid. How can you be preaching a doctrine different from what your parents have believed? However, every day we received trouble and insult, we became more convinced that what we were teaching and preaching, since it came from the New Testament, was right. And I've never changed my mind about that, because the Bible has remained the same. The message of the New Testament is free of error, is inerrant. Having said that, with time, as we're advancing this work in my county, I discovered that the materials from America was dwindling. Things were going down. In those days, we received materials in bulk through the M bags, huge bags that were sent by female. They were cheaper at that time. The U.S. Postal Service phased that out and then phased and eject up prices. Now, we only have the priority boxes. And because of that, we lost the sources of materials for the gospel work in Nigeria. Meanwhile, at this time, I'm already working with Douglas. I'm traveling all over the country each time he's around, and even when he has gone back. So I can feel the pulse of the brotherhood. I know what is needed. Personally, I have a passion for the preaching of the gospel that nobody could take away from me. Not even persecutions or pains could take it. I dream of missions. I work with missions. I think about the church. Every day, what can I do to make the Church of Christ better in my country? And because of that, I started looking for alternative ways of getting books and tracts to help the mission work for Nigeria. And that goal took me 12 years. I wrote my ideas down in a journal that I keep that I titled Ideas and Missions for the Work in Nigeria. But when I look at myself, I was a small player in the brotherhood of Nigeria. There were bigger preachers, there were older people, there were some of them who had gone to school, they had certificates. I did not. But all I had was a passion. I knew this is a need, and what can I do to meet it? Well, God has been faithful. I believe very much in the providence of God Almighty, who knows the hearts of men. I was fortunate to come to America in 2008. And a part of what the elders decided, which is a landmark decision, which has become a milestone, was that the elders at the Sioux Falls congregation approved $15 support monthly for the printing of tracts. I was happy because I have looked for this opportunity for 12 years. Finally, I got it. However, I got back to Nigeria in October of 2008, and the reality dawned on me that the $15 would actually not do much to print materials. Paper that we use for printing in Nigeria comes from China, from Singapore, from India. They are imported. Most of all the supplies that we use are imported and expensive. So how do I make $15 worth the while in printing materials the way we want them for work? Anyway, I was praying and agonizing over this. It occurred to me to leave the money to build up for 1 year. So in 2009, I wrote my first 2 tracts, and I took them to the town of Auchi. I was living in Igara, and I printed a bunch of tracts, and I brought them back to the workers. And everybody saw that and said, wow, Sylvester, what have you been waiting for? This is what we needed. So from 2009 until now, I've written different titles for preaching like these tracts, more than 300. And these have been produced into millions that are now affecting the work of Christ in Nigeria as a whole. And I've written other books like this, more than 30, that we are trying to produce and reproduce for the work of Christ. Because of my connection with missionaries like Douglas and other Americans who come to Nigeria, and because of my wide travels all over Nigeria, I kind of like know what the preachers need. Many preachers have no library, they don't have books. Some of them are in the villages, they have not enough education. So they need somebody that they can hang on to present a lesson, to raise a village church from time to time. And so these tracts and these books are meeting that needs. Right now, we are producing like 750,000 tracts every quarter. And we are trying to produce, according to whatever amount of money we can get a quarter, either 5,000 or 10,000 of solid books like this. Because we now have a printing press, we can produce a book like this at the cost of $1. Now, in 2015, I came back to the U.S. My brother was a member of the Camelback Church of Christ in Phoenix, Arizona. So Douglas took me there, and we met with the church. And in that congregation was raised the sum of $60,000 US, which we used to buy the first printing equipment. Now, I'm writing, and we have a printing machines. We're able to produce tracts on our own We employed a printer, employed someone who works on the computer, and then we got boys together, and we are churning out materials every day. I'm not a printer. I'm not a writer. But I'm always striving to meet the need that I see as authentic and urgent for the Church of Christ in Nigeria. So that has been going on. Today, we are affecting the Brotherhood of Nigeria in more ways than I can tell. We have baptism coming from every nook and cranny. We have congregations being started because these materials are going to far and near. We are sending materials to Bible schools. By the way, we had several local preaching schools and national schools in Nigeria. But since about 10 years now, the Bear Valley Bible Institute in Denver, Colorado, has started establishing satellite campuses all over Nigeria. Before I left home, on my table, I have a list of 52 Bible schools, and we're sending books and tracts to them. The staff and the faculty and the students, they use them for evangelism on a regular basis. We're sending tracts to prison ministries. I have a list of 12 already. There are more prison ministries. We are sending tracts to be used for the Gospel Chariot, which Nigeria has one now. We are sending tracts to be used for radio and TV programs all over Nigeria. We are making impact such that most of all the outreach programs of the Church of Christ in Nigeria are looking up to us to send materials to them. So now, here is the second problem I face. The problem is, whatever we print each quarter does not go anywhere. So that became a challenge for me. What do we do about it? So right now, we have built the printing press. We have a compound. We have building. We have facility. We have workers. They live on the compound. We are working together from morning till evening every day. But yet, the materials are not enough. Every quarter, my difficult task is to look at the log that I have, the list of churches all over Nigeria, and decide, based on what we've printed this quarter, which congregations can we give and which we will have to wait, so we cannot do rationing. So I am positive that if we would have an improvement in this print ministry, then the work of Christ in Nigeria will even double. And also, we stand in a position to be a springboard for the mission work in several African countries, like we are already doing. Some of the preachers have relatives in African countries, and they are sending this material there. I get a report, like from Congo. I don't know anyone in Congo. I've never sent tracts to Congo, only for me to find out that a congregation in Port Harcourt has a brother, Charles Udeme, who is going to Congo, and they're sending boxes of tracts from me to Congo. People from Cameroon came in February this year to the Great Workshop in Cross River State to collect materials that we have produced. Several African countries like that. So the Board of Trustees for the print ministry, we met in June, and we looked all of this, and we said, well, we need to start making appeal to see if we can buy more equipment and double the production that we are doing. That's a part of the goal that we are trying to achieve on this trip. We want to buy more machines for printing. We want to increase the production so that we can serve the Lord's church better than what we are doing today. Now we have one offset machine. We want to buy another one. We have one cutting machine. We want to buy another one, and so forth. And then if we have the money and we buy this equipment, we already have the house to put them in. We will need to employ another printer. The printer we have now, we are paying him $300 a month. Then we need to employ 5 more of the casual boys who sort, collate, trim, and box up the materials. So we are looking for like $800 after. If we are able to buy the equipment, we need to get salaries, $800 a month, $300 for the printer, and $100 for 5 boys, so that we can increase our output for the enhancement of the work of God in Nigeria. I have never been with you before. Douglas brought me here because he is a member with you right now. I am praying that God will touch you and someone will be interested in this ministry. We believe that God has used us as a ministry to advance the cause of Christ in Nigeria. There is nowhere in Nigeria today, north, east, west, and south, where there is evangelism. You don't find people who are using these materials to teach and preach. One more thing. Let me quickly explain that where we are with regard to the need for printed materials today is not where you are. You are a first world nation. We are third world nation. And therefore, you will not look at what we are doing from your perspective. You have electronics, you have computers, you have laptops and all of that. We do too, but relatively few, not many people, because they are expensive. Plus, if I have a phone and it costs me money to put power on it, data on it, airtime for it to work. Thirdly, and more seriously, power supply is a serious issue in Nigeria. In other words, from my understanding, since I'm a native-born Nigerian and I have avid interest in the mission work and I've been on the field since throughout my Christian life of 45 years, I know for a long time we are depending on these materials. So I will please ask you to look at it from our perspective in terms of need for printed material rather than look at it from your perspective when you do not have a need for them as much as we do. Please. We have a team in Esako where I live now. We have a team in Akoko-Edo. What I've been doing over the years is to just raise up a team of workers so that we can cooperate to go from place to place for evangelism. But right now, Nigeria is facing challenges. There's insecurity, there's hardship, there's problems, and all of that. I forgot to tell you, you should have been the one to click. Is that working? Okay. So just show the pictures, that's all. Okay. So,
I'll give them a minute to read.
Yeah, yes. And also, I asked the brother to download a lot of other documents that I brought so that if you care, you can look at them later. Maybe the mission committee, maybe the elders who want to look at them, you will see, and more pictures also. So having said that, right now, we are also looking at how to motivate these preachers. So sometimes I raise money to buy motorcycles to help the preachers to function well so that they can have transportation from place to place. When I come to America, I look at the infrastructure that you have. It just makes me, For example, I've told Douglas and a few places, I say, if there's one thing I could steal, if I could steal something from America to take back to Nigeria, I would steal your roads. Because the roads we walk on, the roads we use for transportation, it's a far cry from what I see here. Sometimes Douglas or any American will ask me, we talk about distance, we are going for somewhere. Say, how long does it take to go to that place? You Americans can tell with precision when you leave point A to point Z. We don't. We cannot. There are a lot of variables that will stop you on the way. You get to the place, the bridge is falling. You get to the place, the river is overflown, and the road is washed off. Too many problems. The vehicles break Sometimes you can even make violence on the road. So there's a big difference. One of the things that has helped the preachers in my place is when they have motorbikes. It is easier to navigate all of that from village to village. So once in a while we raise money to buy motorcycles for them. We are also trying to raise money to help widows and orphans to get food. But in recent times, not just the widows, the insecurity has made food shortage a serious one in Nigeria. People are hungry. Even people who are working with the government, they are still hungry. So periodically, we buy food and we give food relief to people. And we buy sewing machines, grinding mills, and we give them to widows to help them to become self-sustaining, those who are able to use such machines. And yeah, that's my wife at the end. We baptized. The new congregation we started last year, we are now numbering 165 on Sunday. And we live in a Muslim environment. Although the Islam in the south of Nigeria is not as radical as the Islam in the north. In the north, it is difficult to convert Muslims. A father may even disown or kill his child. But in our area, we are able to convert Muslims. My wife grew up from a Muslim family. And today, through our teaching, not so much by our teaching, but by our Christian conduct, which they can see. Because they are our relatives, Sandra's relatives, they can tell that there's a difference between Islam and Christianity with regard to love, with regard to care and consideration for one another, and especially with the area of forgiveness. They can see that. We have built 3 water wells, boreholes, in the area I live now. And people come to fetch water from the church compound for free, including Muslims. And so the Muslims in our environment, they can see that. They can see there's a difference. So we are using every available opportunity to impress people with the message of salvation from Christ. And today, I'm here on behalf of churches in Nigeria to present this message and ask for you to pray, the elders to pray, and pray for us, pray for peace in Nigeria, but also pray that God will open up opportunities for us to fund this ministry, this gospel print ministry, so that we can take the gospel work to greater heights as we have seen the result. This is the offset machine that we are using now. And this machine is a used machine that are imported from Singapore and other places, but sold in Nigeria. And this,
There's your compound, right?
yeah, that's right. So we just built the church building where you have the signboard on this left side, but from the other side, all of it is the print compound, the GOPM. So we bought the land and built the printing press. And then last year, we bought the land and built the church built by its side. As a matter of fact, what is opening up now is that before the signboard on this, that is not shown in the picture, the property there is open for sale. And it's something that we are considering for the future of the GOPM. But for now, what we want to do is to buy equipment to put inside the print house so that we can produce more tracts. So we are asking for your cooperation with us. Whatever can be done, whether on a regular basis, on a one-time basis, whatever we can do. I am aware that you already have mission points. There's no doubt about that. But we are saying that this information is for you to consider and be prayerful about. Whatever can be done in the future, we'll be appreciative of it.
Sylvester will be glad to answer questions. See, we got about 7 or 8 minutes before class is
Right.
over. I want to mention this, that somebody, I'm retired from this, and Chad Wagner, he and I stay in touch. Chad's been here. Y'all helped him with some thousands of dollars at the end of last year. And Chad talks to me regularly. We talked yesterday, he just got back from Nigeria. People still get a hold of me about Nigeria Matters, and somebody about a year to a year and a half ago called, says, hey, there's this business deal going, my wife and I talked it over, we want to give all that money to Nigeria. What it wound up being was $450,000. So there are great men of God in Nigeria. We split that up about 4 ways. He got, what'd you get, Sylvester, to do things, a variety of ministries for God. But the thing about Sylvester, by the way, Austin Banerjee and his wife Vonda, they've been a long time, Austin married Diane and I married him and Vonda, and he married Diane and I. But anyway, Austin's been a long time contributor, but Sylvester's the type of guy, and many of us might fit in this category. Ephesians chapter 3, 20 and 21, with regard to what God can do with us.
Yeah.
That passage says that God, He's able to do exceedingly
Abundantly.
above all that we ask or think. This guy's a thinker. He's been thinking. I don't think that way. I'm not a big thinker, but I've seen the little thinking I've done. God does a lot more, and God's done a lot more in the life of Sylvester. He's going to keep doing it. There's all kinds of revenue in this country that are associated with this work, and I, out of the kindness of the elders' hearts, because I'm not looking to get any money for Sylvester or anything. I just thought it'd be interesting for you all to hear somebody who knows what's going on in the country of Nigeria. It's 1/6 the population of India. India's got 1.4 billion. It'll soon overtake China. 230 million people or so in Nigeria, but it's the 3rd most in local churches of Christ and number of members of the Lord's church. India is 1st in both those categories. The U.S. is 2nd in both those categories. Nigeria is 3rd. There are congregations in Nigeria that are 1,500 with elders and deacons and more than one preacher. And then there's all kinds of villages over there, smaller congregations. But anyway, who's got questions for Sylvester for a couple of minutes?
Over there.
Go ahead, Larry, forces?
If my wife is
your work
hindered.
hindered by political or religious forces in your country?
Well, yes and no. Yes, because of insecurity, there are places where movement is restricted. Now, there are some, not that the government restrict the movement, but out of fear of insecurity, there are some places we cannot go. That kind of hindrance. But otherwise, there's no force stopping us from preaching. As a matter of fact, the hardship and the difficulties is opening doors for us to even attend to people more. People are more receptive to the gospel now than when things were easier for them in my area. Yeah.
Well, the question was kind of related to
Okay.
what Larry said, and I applaud you for the incredible work to get the message out throughout Nigeria.
Thank you.
Does the government restrict or place barriers on what you can or cannot do?
The government of Nigeria is at the top run by Muslims, and that's unfortunate. There are more Christians in Nigeria than Muslims, but unfortunately, for decades now, there is a Muslim cabal from Sokoto Caliphate that are the head of Nigeria. So they determine how they want the world to see Nigeria. As a matter of fact, they portray Nigeria as an Islamic country, which is not. Now, when it comes to restriction, what obtains in the south is different from what obtains in the north. The north of Nigeria, they are run by two constitutions. We have the Nigerian constitution, but they are more under the Muslim penal code called Sharia. That's what they use to run their government. So when you go up north, you find more restrictions, but in the south, we don't. For example, I have traveled across Nigeria everywhere. In 2011, I think, I was in Zaria in Kaduna State in the north. And in the evening, we are going to go for house-to-house evangelism. And the native preacher there had to address us before we went out, and especially those of us who are strangers. And one of the warnings he gave to us is that as you go from house to house, if you get to a Muslim man's house and you find the right at the doorpost, Ba Shiga, don't enter. Ba Shiga is Hausa language, which means do not enter. Because if you enter, you may not come out. So, but we don't have that in the south. The situation is altogether different. Yeah.
Any other questions? Real quick, in 2014, I think it was, I was going from Lagos. I wasn't with Sylvester. Hadn't been in the country very long, but I was going from Lagos west, east. And I'm in the back of a van that had 25 people in it. I always rented two spaces because I'm a little bit taller than most Nigerians, as you can tell. And so I had two spaces in the back.
But I have a son that's taller than you.
He's got a son that's 6'3" or 6'4", getting his master's in London. But anyway, I'm in the back of this thing, and I'm wherever I was going, it was a 3-hour trip, had one brother with me. All of a sudden, it's a 4-lane highway. All of a sudden, vehicles are coming this way, and they're saying, bandits up there. Our guy stops the van. Everybody got out of there so fast. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was said. Then I'm running. I just left everything. I had about 60,000 cash. Maybe it was 100,000. I had my passport. Everybody was. I'm by myself in this thing, and then I run off into the bush, and that's when I thought in 2014, I thought I'm getting too old for this. As they rob people
Yeah.
and stuff like that. There's no law. It is jungle justice.
It's terrible.
I think you got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
First up.
So,
Austin-
yes.
Austin knows a little bit about the work too, because he's been involved for a long time.
About 40 years ago, my wife and I, through Doug, we were looking for a ministry we felt comfortable with that was worthy. I'm in the presence of my hero, just for the record, I want you to know that. And Doug's taking a second string, now he's down there just a little bit. But, we found, and I'll make this brief, we found that there is no more trustworthy person than this guy right here. We've given ministers before and wasted our money. We've given ministers before and wasted our money. I'm not going to tell you what we have done. I feel it's paltry compared to what other people have been giving. And I don't want my right hand to know what my left hand is up to, but I will say that I've never wasted a penny. some plans, and he knows I've told him privately about what I would like to do even further with the ministry here. My ministry, and he's allowed me to do it, is direct ministry to widows and orphans. The print ministry is fantastic. I mentioned to the elders up at the Church of Christ in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it was kind of, Doug Wheeler's got a great ministry, let's talk about that. And now it's become huge. I don't even know, I've kind of lost count and lost track of what Sioux Falls is doing, but they are completely intimately involved with what he's doing every day. The Hebrew writer comes to mind, you have not yet shed blood in your striving against sin. He'll tell you some stories if you want to hear what the persecution, what he's been through. He's been attacked. I think Satan wants him dead, and I pray about him all the time. But I can tell you there is not a more worthy ministry I've ever met in my life. And I'll be 71 years old, and I just wanted to say, if you give a sandwich worth of money or if you give $100,000, none of it will be wasted. The kingdom is in good hands with men like this. That's all I wanted to tell you.
Thank you.
What does GOPM stand for?
The Gospel Outreach Print Ministry.
And how do you pronounce your middle name?
I'm a Menomo. I'm a Menomo. This, our names carry meaning. Child is supreme, but the literal interpretation is there is nothing that is greater than a child. I'm a Menomo. Yeah.
If I understand you're looking for another press, how much money are we talking about in terms of getting another press?
Yeah. The equipment will cost $65,000 that we want to replace. And then the whole process of upgrading, we are looking at $110,000. In Phoenix, the congregation where we got the initial money, that was where I first spoke on the 3rd of this month. They, Coming Back Church of Christ.
By the way, I want to stop that real quick to tell Russ. Russ, he's consulted with people like Harry Cotham and some of these other names that you and I would know.
So-
And for writing and stuff, they helped him. Yeah.
So that congregation, for example, they've assured me that they are committed, but they have not mentioned a dollar figure. But they plan that in September they are going to take up contribution in their Mission Sunday. Then we left Arizona, we came to Sioux Falls. The Sioux Falls, we had a meeting with them the next Sunday, and the Church of Christ in Tyler came from Minnesota to be with us. The Tyler brethren have already contributed $24,000 for this work. Then we are waiting for the Sioux Falls decision. Then we left Sioux Falls and came to Oklahoma. We have been in Dewey congregation. The Dewey, we met them on Wednesday last week. And the elders have told me that they are going to take a special contribution because they have been dealing with me for years, so they know about all of this. So we are expecting contributions from these places. So that's how far. Yeah.
Legacy Church of Christ, their mission budget is $660,000 a year. And he stayed with the Deacon of Missions. Bill Lawrence, retired Marine pilot, who still deals with airplane crashes at age 83. He was involved in Kobe Bryant's plane crash and testified and so forth like that. But Bill's on that mission committee, and Warren Buffett's partner is in that congregation, and so they'll work out something at some point as well.
And Bill is somebody who has been, we have worked together in Nigeria. He knows me very well. I've been to his house in Texas. So we are praying that God will motivate help for this ministry for his glory in Nigeria.